The film as we know it today was invented in 1969 by Marcus M.C. Movie, and ever since then, you have been cheated and lied to. Movies aren't about telling stories, they're just about making money, right? I mean, of course, the industry won't exist if, you don't make money. So that just means throw caution to the wind, make bad films. Why not? Sony/Marvel Studios Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage is shit. We didn't even get a muck monster scene. What the fuck, Richard? Today we will be speaking volumes on a very mid superhero movie. Come to think of it, I don't even know if you'd consider this duology superhero films. The term anti-hero comes to mind, but I normally associate that term with the Deadpool films, which are actually more superhero than not, so I'm a corn fuzzled. Regardless, the video you're watching right now is a sequel, because why would I review the second one before the first? So, if you haven't already, I politely ask that you go and, watch the first video first. Because if you don't, I'll find you, and I will eat your liver. But, before we jump into the first movie, let me show you something.
Hi, Eddie. Hey.
Did you see that? No? Let me zoom in for you.
Hi, Eddie. Hey.
Now, I want to ask you something. Is continuity important to you? Because it is to me. Now, I want you to look at this promotional poster for the movie. Notice anything different? Well, I do. Let me show you. They took the wig. Where is the Ronald Ah! Okay, I think I lost my train of thought. Woody Harrelson, Cletus Cassidy, Venom 2. Okay, Eddie is a reporter again. He's a reporter again, and he has to do these meetings regularly with Cletus Cassidy, a serial killer played by Woody Harrelson. This is one of the worst decisions that this movie makes, but we'll get into that later. Woody plays Cletus Cassidy, a serial killer who has hidden all of his bodies successfully. Because of this, his sentencing has been dramatically reduced. This isn't really all that important. Now, this isn't really all that important because the plot never really is with these movies. But upon meeting Cletus, I think for a couple times, Venom figures out where they're hiding the body. He reports this and gets back in the good graces of the reporting community. Big brain. Things are finally looking up for him, except for kinda not really. You see, sharing a body can seem to be a pretty intimate experience for anybody, really. And this movie leans very hard into that. Essentially, Venom and Eddie argue like a married couple. Eddie doesn't appreciate all that Venom has done for him, which does seem really derivative of a lot of other movies, unfortunately. Whereas Venom doesn't appreciate not being appreciated. After some bickering and arguing, Venom moves out. He decides that he can survive in someone else's body, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, it's never been explicitly explained that Venom couldn't live in someone else's body, but between these two movies, we've seen like a whole of 6, I think, symbiotes not be able to find a suitable host, and they're all dead now. But regardless, Eddie has to do things on his own now, which sucks. But what about Cletus? Well, he's on death row now because Eddie ratted him out. Sounds about right. There is this running bit that is even referenced in the final fight scene that Eddie only got this information out of Cletus because Cletus let him, I guess. Cletus wanted to tell his story to the media so people would, sympathize with him, I guess. And because Eddie is the media, Cletus told him information that he wouldn't the cops, and this got him caught. It's heavily suggested that the only reason that Cletus gave up this information for Eddie was because he wanted somebody, if only one person, to sympathize with him and understand what he's went through and how he became a crazy serial killer, which can be a really interesting way to go about things if it was written or acted correctly. It is not in this movie, and I want to believe that there is a cut of this film where it is, but I highly doubt it. All of this said, Eddie doesn't sympathize with him. He publishes the story that Cletus tells him, but he only prints one side, the murdery one. Once Cletus is put on death row, he realizes that Eddie doesn't sympathize with him, and this compounding with the fact that Eddie was the reason that he's now going to be killed, he gets upset, and Cletus bites Eddie. A little bit of the symbiote gets inside of Cletus, which spawns Carnage with a K. And when Cletus and Carnage break out of prison and eat a bunch of people, our boys need to set aside their differences and save the world. You see, Litter Peen Can Rage is a completely different movie from the first film. It really toes the line between supervillain origin story and pseudo-romantic rom-com in a way that just does not work at all. This doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it is in this scenario. This movie comes across as quippy, self-aware, and just weird in a distinctly Marvel-esque way, I guess, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does not at all hearken to the seriousness, the over-seriousness of its predecessor. Because of this and a few other things, it seems more like a spin-off of the first movie rather than a direct sequel. In direction, not writing. I mean, they connect the two pretty well in the writing department. The biggest difference, I'd say, here between the first one is Venom as a character. And I don't mean the way that he was written. In this film, Venom is his own character, acting as his own person, and it really doesn't work. I appreciate the comic book-ness of this part of the show, but it doesn't work. It wasn't written correctly. In the comics, Venom isn't just a suit that turns people evil like it's portrayed in the third Spider-Man film. He is his own character with his own motivations, and when you can do that correctly, it really plays into why I like Venom as a character. This isn't to say that he was written well at all in the first movie, but like when you put a lot of emphasis on his acting as a person, it does not work, at least not in this context. Venom as a character is not funny at all. Speaking of funny, boy howdy do they just get on their knees and grovel for you to laugh during this film. From badly directed and not at all working slapstick to just terrible punchline. I'm telling you, my 9-year-old sister could come up with better jokes than this, and she does on a regular basis. Just throughout the entire movie, it seems like it's begging. This is funny, right? What about this? Is this funny? Is this funny to you? Huh? Are you laughing yet? Does this make you laugh? And what exactly do I mean by this? Look, Woody Harrelson. The worst part about this point is you don't even need to watch the movie to understand where I'm coming from with this. Just look at the promotional poster. Look at his face. If this doesn't scream absolutely loony balloony, I don't know what does. Woody Harrelson in this movie is like if you took Tallahassee from Zombieland and just cranked it to 11.
Oh, balls! Where's the fucking squeaky?
I don't know what you would explain him as, or what I even can, but I know for a fact that it's not good. And I think everybody can unanimously agree that he was just a really bad pick for the role. He was just improperly cast. I mean, yeah, he's Woody Harrelson. He looks weird. He looks funny. But there's not a single scene in this movie where he seems at all threatening. And before you ask, yes, I know for a fact that I could do better. Robert Knepper, anyone? Scott? Ryan? They would have been amazing in this role. Robert's performance as Teabag in Prison Break is a just... nobody could have played this role better. Have you even seen Mr. In-Between? Speaking of cast changes, and, well, changes in general, I think if you wanted this movie to work and be good, you would have pivoted. And what would that pivot be? Horror. The crazy thing is, Venom is so clearly a good candidate for a horror film or even a horror franchise at this point. And anybody who read the comics would agree. Same thing goes for Carnage. Look at this Nintendo cartridge. Look at this Nintendo cartridge and tell me that it wouldn't make a really good horror film. But no, unfortunately, we don't live in that timeline. All things considered, I think this is really the only direction that the Venom symbiote can go from here on out. I mean, I'd kill to see Robert Knepper or Scott Ryan pilot the symbiote to horror movie fame and glory, but I know that's never going to happen. And because of the new Spider-Man film, we've confirmed that Venom isn't actually going to be part of the MCU, which makes this film not worthy of existing. In the first video, I said that the only reason that this film deserves to exist is because of the post-credit scene. And the post-credit scene here throws Venom into the No Way Home movie, the crossover film. And Eddie's only appearance in that entire film is a post-credit scene. They use his cameo as a way to introduce the symbiote into the MCU, but it's in Mexico, so how they're gonna get from Mexico to New York doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. So Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy are not going to be in the MCU, unfortunately. So what's next, Tony? Tell me what's next, because I don't see any direction to go from here. Venom does not deserve a threequel, and it didn't even deserve a sequel. So I don't know what you're gonna do with this IP. I don't have a whole lot more to say. This movie sucks. I hope you guys are enjoying this content. I'm not gonna turn into a film channel for sure, but I do really like film, and I talk about whatever I really want to at this point. There'll be an interesting video coming out next week. I already got it scripted and everything. It's already recorded, just need to edit it down. So we'll see you guys next week. If you didn't watch last week's video, Why Are You Here? Go watch that one. If you did, thanks a lot. I wouldn't say to check out any of my other videos because it's a pretty big drop in quality, but if you do, that'd be great. And if you don't, guys, remember, no one cares.